Welcome everyone to Phoenix Rising. I have one of my favorite friends here. I don't know how many years, decades. Millenniums and past lives and all that stuff. So this is Joe Giaquinto, for those of you that do not know. Paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, medium psychic, computer nerd, wonderful son, animal lover. Yeah, I could go on and on and on. I'm making him blush. Look at this. This is so cool. So Joe and I do go back to the early 1980s.
We do, yeah.
Because when I lived in Oceanside, I lived in a house that had some very uncomfortable energy in it. And my husband was not open to hearing what was going on, even though he was very involved with one of the energies that was coming in. It was the woman whose house it was originally. And a portal was created, and some very uncomfortable, unhealthy, and dangerous energies were coming in that my children were impacted by it. And my kids are all adults, married now with children, and they still remember how terrified they were in that house, of what they remember seeing, feeling, and things happening. You know, so it wasn't my imagination or whatever. My husband and I, at the time, we bought this house in Oceanside, and the first thing I remember about that, Joe, I don't know if I ever told you this part, is at the time we had Jonathan together. I have 3 sons from before, and he had 5 children from before.
Okay.
So we walked in, and this was a cute little cape, and there were only 2 bedrooms. And I'm thinking, why are we looking at a house with 2 bedrooms? There are, some of the children will be there all the time, some will come and visit.
I just saw an article, by the way.
I'm sure we have a lot of company. It's around Scott's birthday and Angelversary, so I know he's very active. And when we walked in, my husband felt very welcomed. And I felt like somebody threw me back up against the front door when the front door closed.
That was the woman that was competing, right?
Oh, there was a big competition there. But it was also a portal that very negative, harmful energies were coming in, very angry energies were coming in. So with living with this for a while, some of our friends that were company stopped coming over because it was an open area between the kitchen and dining room. And it was the time when people were playing Uno and all that, so friends would come over Friday night or Saturday night, and we'd have dinner and snacks and play Uno. And one night I had the dishwasher open, and I could see right into the dining room. It's an archway right open. And I'm loading the dishwasher, and I turned my back, and all the silverware went up and was thrown out.
Oh,
and
wow.
Everyone saw it. It was like, okay, bye guys, we have to go now. People really didn't want to stay. We lost babysitter after babysitter. So with all this activity, I needed to find an answer, what's going on? And I took a course at Nassau Community College in paranormal psychology, abnormal psychology. And when I felt comfortable enough to talk to my professor, I told her what was happening, and she said, what timing? Because we're going to an institute next week, adult field trip, and I want you to talk to Dr. Carlos Osis. An amazing man.
Yeah.
So
and you signed up with the ASBR.
Yes, so I went there with my class, and I didn't want to bother him. He was such an imposing energy. He sounded like Bela Lugosi, though.
But he's a very nice man.
Oh my God, a darling man.
Level, even keeled.
Yes, and I wasn't going to bother him, talk to him, and he wasn't letting me leave because my professor said, this young lady needs to talk to you. And he and Dr. Alex Tannhaus came to my home and did an investigation. What I didn't know is that when I was in the institute, this gentleman was also there. So when we met, 8-9 years ago, we met at the Blue Duck Bakery in Riverhead.
Right.
And
you first, what happened was you...
I responded to a blog
Patch.
you wrote.
Right,
Patch, yes.
I just decided to post some comments there, and you were, I think, the only one that responded on that particular one.
Interesting.
And somehow, and so the spirits, they always...
They put us back together.
They put us back together. So for, right on the audience, people that seem like they met someone before, they probably have.
Yes.
previous life.
It was such a comfort.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen each other in decades, and yet we knew, and we didn't even really acknowledge each other in the Institute, but the minute you walked in, you and I knew each other, and we were eating off each other's plates.
It was like we were old friends.
Oh, buddies.
Not knowing that we had been in the same institute all that
Until
time.
late at the end of that conversation of that day, it was like, oh my God, you were there, you were there.
That's right.
So since then, Joe has been on the show when we were in Riverhead. I mean, it's...
By the way, did I email you that, remember Wells, Indian Wells, remember that whole thing?
Yes, you did.
I did send you the final
We
accident.
did that here at LTV.
Yeah, we did I sent you the final NTSB report?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
interesting, huh?
It's very interesting. So if any of you remember, you could also go back through LTV's archives. We did a show with the plane crash at Wells,
Indian
it was
Wells.
Indian Wells Beach. The young man passed,
Well,
and
yeah, it was
and it was
Dr.
just devastating. And we were doing the Ouija board that
Right.
day, and things just started to shift,
Right.
and these numbers and letters started to come up. Joe hadn't heard the news or anything, and you said,
During
these
it,
are plane
Yeah, I said it's just a
identifications.
registration number. Not that we had the registration number of that plane. Maybe we did. We never checked. But I said, was there a plane crash?
Yeah,
And then there
the
had
people
been
in the
one.
audience were like, yes, yes,
Right.
yes.
But we didn't, I think we didn't revisit that until the following year.
We weren't allowed to.
Right.
Because of the involvement with the FAA and the police and the Coast Guard.
Right.
LTV could not show the show, and they couldn't give me a copy of it
Right.
for concern that I would show it to other people, because the family was just torn apart
Yeah.
by this. This was
I
horrible.
listen to that recording sometimes, and I had driven back home from the show.
I remember that.
And I put my ghost box, my spirit box on, which is basically a radio. I have the radio version, which snippets of live on-air conversation the spirits can monkey with. So they can answer your questions real time, as if you're talking to someone on a phone,
Yeah.
a walkie-talkie. And they chimed in about he was the pilot.
And a young man from Hampton Bays was the pilot.
Yeah, and he said I remember one of the comments on the ghost box was, "For fatal people, goodbye, friends." It's just a very sad. One of them
Really
said, "We need a
heartbreaking.
pilot, Joseph. We need a pilot. The
Yeah.
plane has crashed." Things like that. So we're getting chills now. But that was interesting. But yeah, they always find a way to
Spirit
connect.
finds a way to give you messages, to do things, and I'm
to
just going
connect
to
people.
touch on this because I want Joe to let people know how he started and his gifts and things, because so many more people have started to watch the show that really don't know your history. But we are going to schedule a show to talk more about the Institute, Dr. Osis and Dr. Tanos. But interestingly, and we were just talking before the show, I know so securely that Dr. Osis put this in my face. So I have in my hot little hands here an official document from the Department of the Army, U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command, which is stamped secret. It was written October 3rd, 1979, and it's a memorandum, attention Major Stoner, subject Dr. Carlos Osis, and it was his work with Dr. Alex Tanos. And they worked with the police, and it really validates everything that you and I do.
That's right.
So this was written October 1979, and it was released, approved for release, April 2nd,
It was
2001.
declassified. Yeah,
Took that long to get it declassified.
interesting.
So we're going to talk more about Dr. Osis and
Yeah, I
his
think
work that he did.
Maybe on that topic too, we'll talk about remote viewing and
Yes,
the hemisync process, what Robert Monroe did.
yes,
He created this, and talk about synchronizing the brain, left and right brain.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
it is.
I've had several out-of-body experiences, and you have.
Oh my gosh,
so-
I got involved after that stuff was happening in that house in Oceanside. I got involved with a group called Eckankar, and what I learned from there from my two teachers, who are darlings, and they're both crossed over, was what they called soul travel, was out of body.
Right.
ethereal. It was just amazing.
It's amazing.
We all do it. When we
We all
go to
do
bed
it.
at night, we all do
We
it.
do it. A lot of people, I think, have experiences. There's like dreams, and there's lucid dreams, which are very vivid, real life type dreams. Do you feel a part of? And then there's out of body, astral travel, OBs, OOBs. They have different names for the same thing. Remote viewing is sort of a type of out of body experience, but
A lot of
It's-
people have the remote viewing when they're in a surgical situation.
right.
That they look
yeah.
down, like my mother had said when she was in one of her surgeries, that she could see the doctors working on her.
That was probably out of body.
You think so?
Well,
Well,
there's-
what,
if they
so
have a-
what
well,
would be the,
I want to look up, and maybe when we do the show, I'm going to fact check to make the exact differences. But
okay,
to me, remote viewing is basically you take your consciousness and you project it somewhere else. So you go to some room, and you're able to see the room.
Gotcha.
And you could, from the military standpoint, when they were doing the remote viewing experiments, the training, the government, they would want to send people to a particular target. They would call it a target, and then they would try to evaluate what was there. The idea being that they could send agents remotely to some
and they did.
to some location and
You-
spy.
You're saying that, you reminded me, my professor's connection with Dr. Osis, she thought she was out of her mind or had a brain tumor because she was doing remote viewing, but people saw her. People that were in Asia, friends of hers and her family,
right.
saw
Okay,
her.
So there's a lot of connection, I think, between apparitions, psychic experiences, paranormal, remote viewing, out of body. I think they're all connected. They're all kind of the same thing. But anyway, remote viewing, so you go to some location, some target, and you gather information, you come back. Out of body to me, is a more personal experience.
Okay.
You're actually not physically, but you're actually consciously aware of where you are, like you're floating over the hospital bed. You're aware that you're there. You're looking back at your body. Where remote viewing, you may not really, you're leaving your body, but not really, in a sense.
Okay.
You're projecting your consciousness somewhere to gather information, but you're not like flying through space like Superman or something.
Okay.
So, like sometimes when I'm doing some exercise or meditation at night or something, I'll just close my eyes and all of a sudden I'll see a room. And I'll see people in the room, I'll see
Yeah.
things. And so I'm just going to go there. But I'm not actually floating, I'm not looking back at
Right.
My body.
You're viewing.
I'm viewing, yeah. So really what you were saying, I think that we as spirits in a rental car type of a body, right? I mean, we're all spirits. So we have the same characteristics, same abilities as spirits.
Yeah.
We get slowed down into this earth so that we can function here. So in a way, we kind of lose our higher self, like awareness of things in the universe. But we're still We're still
Yeah.
spirits. So when we go somewhere, it's possible we could create an apparition. We could show up.
And
because-
someone could say, I saw you,
yeah,
you know, at the Great Wall of China.
right,
And you're like,
or they don't actually physically see you, but in their mind, the spirit puts in an image of them standing there with that backdrop. So people always say, do you actually see people? There are mediums like Richard Scholler who actually saw his 4 grandparents appear to him physically in his house after they had passed, and they told him he was going to be a medium.
Yeah, so how did you start, speaking of how, so, did we
Well,
go back to California, or was it before California?
It was before California. I mean, you could go all the way back to when I was a kid in grade school and high school. I'd never fit in. I might have been a
Did you hear and
indigo
see?
child. Probably.
Yeah.
I'm going to start thinking about those days back then
Yeah,
to see what kind of events I might have done, witnessed or had sense, a sixth sense about.
I think
but-
most of us did not fit in with the usual groups.
No, yeah. I mean,
in
I
school.
actually had remember somebody called me. She said I was a weird, nerdy guy in like 8th grade or something.
And at that point, you didn't know how to say thank you.
Yeah, I was singing to myself, and I was thinking about something. I remember doing a presentation for class. You had to put together some kind of recording. You had to do like a tape recording, and you had to make like music behind it. This was like a production thing. It was way back before we had all this technology. And I did some strange, bizarre thing. And
I'm so
people
surprised.
said, the teacher was like,
What the heck?
thank you, Mr. Giaquino. Next. Nobody got what I was trying to present. But I think going back, when I got my pilot's license, I got at 17 years old, I remember taking a trip upstate, and we were coming over Long Island Sound about 10:30 at night. We were way late. My parents were at the airport, this little tiny sod farm strip, out east. And they were really concerned. They had gone to the owner of the airport and asked him if, we were all right, if we were on our way back. But I was flying with the guy that did the service the planes. He took a ride with me, so he went to Massachusetts. But anyway, we're coming back late. And while we're flying over Connecticut, I looked at the fuel gauges, and they looked fine. They were at half tank. I figured we had enough fuel. But when we got over Long Island Sound, we were about, 5,500 feet or something, 4,500 feet. I remember looking at the gauges, and I'm like, a voice said to me, like a spirit guide kind of said to me, Joe, the gauges are wrong. Tap the gauges with your fingers, the glass gauges, because there was a left and right tank, so there were two gauges. I tapped them, and both the needles went to zero, went to empty. So we started a very slow descent at 100 foot a minute.
Yeah.
And we got to the airport, landed, made the first attempt, and we pulled up to the fuel truck, and the fellow said, I'll fill it up tomorrow morning and I'll let you know how much gas we actually had left. So he said, well, Joe, he said the usable fuel in that airplane was 22.5 gallons, and it said it took 22 gallons. So we had a half a gallon of fuel, which probably might have been 3 or 4 or 5 minutes left worth of fuel flying, depending on how we were flying, the mixture and all.
Right.
But it was, I've had spirits give me information along, and we all have. We we don't aspire that it's a spiritual thing. If you've ever, to our viewers,
your gut feeling, your intuition.
Yeah. I mean, we are
an obsession, something that you have to do, and that's not your usual behavior.
Yeah, here's a perfect example. I took my mom to Pennsylvania. We went to it was Sands Casino in Allentown, Bethlehem. Now it's Wind Creek. So Dad was in the hospital. He was getting ready to pass, and
so this was a while ago.
Yeah, we'd been at the hospital every day. I think it was 2012, and we just had to get out of Dodge. Because Mom had been sitting at the bedside, You do.
You need a break from
We need a
that.
break. I said, do you want to go to that new casino in Pennsylvania and just, gamble for a few hours, have a nice dinner, and then I'll bring it back. We'll come back in the morning. So we did that. So we got to the place, and we were there till like 2 in the morning gambling.
Wow.
We were the only ones in the casino. It just opened. And I remember the PA announcer said, we just want you to know that for our patrons, our loyal patrons, we are going to stay open right through the night. That was for us.
Yeah, yes.
But anyway, we about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, we decided to leave, go back to the hotel, which was not on the property. It was like 15 minutes away. Well, we got out of there in the dead of night, and this is before the cell phones got better and the batteries didn't work. They didn't work as well then.
Right.
The cell phone died. I didn't have the charger. It was in the hotel room. And we got lost in like the freight train yards. We were in the middle of nowhere. I mean, literally, it was scary.
That's
I mean, not
anxiety,
because the neighborhood was bad or anything. It just was.
It's
It was
the middle
dark.
of the night.
It was 3 in the morning. We were in Pennsylvania. We didn't know, the roads in Pennsylvania, for those who've been there, some of those back roads and stuff, they're pretty small, and you get to a crossroad that goes in 5 different directions.
Yeah.
So we're driving around these freight yards, and I'm like, I just put it to the spirit world. I said, you get us back to the hotel. So I started making lefts and rights. I got on some highway. I got another secondary road. And we're driving about 15, 20 minutes, and all of a sudden, we make a turn, and something says, turn to the right, and I get there, and the hotel is right there. And the hotel wasn't even in the same town. It was like 2 towns over. And we got right to the hotel. And But those things, I think, kind of shape your experiences, and if you pick up on the fact that maybe you have some abilities.
Yeah.
So sorry for the long-winded answer on that, but now bringing more up to the big change. So I came back from California in 2003, and I went to a Halloween lecture at the Conklin Barn in Huntington. Carrie Ann Flanagan Broski
Yes.
was giving the lecture.
Our author.
Yep, and that's right. And she would do these ghost lectures, like Halloween lectures.
What is the name of the last book? The Haunted Houses of Long Island?
Haunted, Historic Haunts of Long Island, or Haunted Long Island.
I have it right on my coffee table, and I can't. I could
We
see
got
it, but I
like, this
can't.
is like, she has like 9 books now.
Yeah.
So, and that book was now, I guess it's 3 years old or something. But we have there'll probably be another book, I'm sure. So anyway, I didn't know Carrie Ann at all, didn't know her husband, didn't know anything. I just wanted to go to this Halloween lecture, ghost lecture. So I walk in there, and by this time I had come back. I had already joined the Ghost Hunters of Long Island group, which at the time was breaking apart. There was a mutiny in the group, and it was splitting. I ended up taking it over. So I was going to their events, and so it's interesting, the paranormal. So I went to this lecture, and Carrie Ann, I met her, and she immediately says, I'm thinking of writing a historic book, Revolutionary War book, but with ghost stories. Would you be interested? And on the spot, she asked me to help her with the book.
Perfect.
So I left, and she said to her husband, this guy could be a serial killer, axe murderer or something. He says, I don't know who this Joe Giaquino is. So the next day I had to meet her formally for an interview at a diner, in a coffee shop in Huntington. And she says, is your head going to turn 180 degrees like in The Exorcist? I said, trust me, that'd be very painful.
Yeah.
So it obviously didn't. That was 18 years ago. But that was so, I started in that, and as we did the investigations, my mediumship started to develop.
And you do spirit photography along with this.
I do I do the readings, I do spirit photography. One of my specialties is electronic voice phenomena.
I love it. We've done so many shows with the EVPs, and I love rewatching them, because Joe and Carrie Ann, or whoever you're with, it's usually Carrie Ann and another woman, will go into a home or a property, and there are times that Joe will say, what's it like where you are? And the answer at that time was heaven.
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
Yeah, we get some great
And
conversations.
they say hi and use your name.
They do. I have one recording, which is my favorite. Maybe we'll play it at a future show, but where I'm talking to my spirit guide. I have several people that I communicate with. One of them is this lady named Melissa.
Yes.
And it mean she's an actual physical female person. She might have lived, she might have been a
This is
female.
how she's presenting.
This is how she presents to me. And so I actually have a conversation on the Ghost Box where I actually talk to her, and you can hear her talking back. And so the thing with the Ghost Box is really interesting, because the Ghost Box, again, is live radio. So when they mess with it and they stop and start the scanner on the radio, they actually answer your questions right then and there. So I like to use it at my events, because not only am I saying, well, I'm seeing your great-grandfather here, but they might actually hear the great-grandfather talk on the radio live to my group. So they can actually listen to, and it could be in the same voice as the great-grandfather would have sounded. I did miss one little minor thing, of course, in 1980, where I moved into a haunted house in Plattsburgh.
Yes,
And,
that's the one. I thought it was California.
Yeah,
Would you talk about Plattsburgh? That one was quite
that was
substantial.
between meeting Carrie Ann and my growing up. Yeah, so I had just got out of college, and I went to work at a TV station in upstate New York, Channel 57, which is PBS, is public broadcasting. And I'd start in the morning, 5 in the morning, I'd put on Sesame Street and then Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, who watched?
You had a lot of fun doing that.
It was a lot. I loved it. I mean, I went to Delphi University for broadcasting. It was my BA in Bachelor of Arts in Communications, so that was my specialty. I still love it. I still like doing production. But yeah, so I moved into this old boarding house just outside Plattsburgh, and within a few days, I started having trouble sleeping. I felt like something was pressing down on me. Now, the boarding house had 6 units, 6 apartments. I was on the left side at the top. So my dining room, living room had a spiral staircase that went up into the attic where the bed was. That was the bedroom up there. And I had the whole half of the attic, right to the eyebrow windows or whatever they had, right? So when I slept up there, again, I felt this evil presence kind of pushing down on me. And the last night I was there, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep up there anymore. I started sleeping on the couch down below.
Yeah.
So I left the light on up there, which is something I normally wouldn't do, leaving the light on when you go to sleep. And I remember hearing things up in the attic where the bedroom was, and there were things manifesting up there.
Yeah.
And so I called the landlord in the next morning. He came in and looked at the damage and stuff, what had happened up there. And he said he had never seen anything like it before.
And he knew it wasn't you that had done this damage.
No, it was right. It was something you'd see on the movie, The Amityville Horror. It was one of those scenes.
Yeah.
And he said he'd never seen anything like it. And he said, you want your rent money back, and who offers to give you the rent money back? So I moved out. I moved to a trailer court down the road and lived happily ever after. Well, I was up there. I only lasted 8 months up there, I think. Then I came to New York. But
it's really frightening.
And that's when I joined the ASPR.
Yeah, and when I had gone there, it's, there are most energies and most spirit guides are just so gentle and so loving and care about you so much, protect you.
They don't judge, and they might have an opinion.
There's always, like in the physical, there are people that are just rotten.
But, I mean, your spirit guides, while they may get angry at you or upset with you or feel you're not rising to your best potential, they're not really judgmental. They just want to help.
Well, I don't think you knew this happened. I had someone on, we talked about scams. His name is Rob Schumacher, really, really cool guy. And someone tried to scam me in January.
Oh, this January?
This past January, but it happened in a very strange way. The scam started on a Sunday, and I live on a farm. And on that Sunday, the 2 nights before, the cats were sitting by the base cabinet in the kitchen. And I heard, and I'm like, no, please, no mice, please, no mice, no. They're adorable, but outside.
Yeah.
And I talked to Jonathan on the property, my landlord's grandson, who's a darling. And EJ, if you're going to watch this, I love you. It's their son. He's my little heart, my little boyfriend. So he called an exterminator, and the guy comes in, and he said, it's not a mouse, it's a rat. Because something was weird, and we all know that Scott's in my cottage with me, but he doesn't do disruptive things. The most he does is, you could see him turn the water on the hot water, and that's pretty much it. Or he'll open the door for someone that's staying too long. And so I had opened my silverware drawer, and my silverware was rearranged. I opened up the drawer where I keep the cat food and Bella's thyroid medication, and her medication's gone. The bottle is gone. A bottle of a medication that I only take once in a blue moon was in another drawer that I don't take it by mistake, with my vitamins. That's gone. Like, am I walking in my sleep? What's going on?
Right.
So the man tells me it's a rat, and what they wanted to do would not have made sense. So what we did was they put out traps around the cottage, and they stuffed steel wool under the base cabinet.
Right.
But this rat was in the base cabinets and obviously up in the silverware drawers and stuff for a week from Sunday to Sunday.
God.
And this person that was trying to scam me was coming across that it was someone I knew from years ago that I met at another dear friend's funeral.
When you say scam, you mean it was like a psychic person? Or?
Oh, no. This was somebody I don't know if they were going to want money from me or abduct me for organ, whatever, donation, not donation. But there was something very creepy because it was,
Creepy,
how
yeah.
are you? It was, oh my God, how's your wife? How are the kids? Blah, blah, blah. And they said, I'm coming into New York in February. Oh, great, let's meet, in the city. So I said, how come we can't talk on the phone? Well, because he's a performer and very well known international. I'm thinking, that's weird. If the president could talk on a cell phone, why can't you? And I started to doubt it, even though we video chatted, but the video chat dropped off very quickly. So when I found a lot of the tricks that these people use,
So this is like a
they cut and
catfish?
paste, similar, making believe they're this person that I knew. And obviously they researched the other person who was also
Right.
internationally known and said, things that were like these little hooks that, oh my God, yes, I remember that. So I had told a friend of mine, and I said, something is just not right. I do not think this is him. And at the same time, I have this rat I'm dealing with. And she said, do you think the rat is a harbinger? And I had to look up harbinger.
Right.
It was like so long since I had heard
Like
the
an
word.
omen, right?
So the day that I confronted this person is the day that the rat left. It was fascinating to
The
see
timing of it.
the timing.
Yeah.
And,
I believe that. I do believe that there's so many, there's probably so many stories with animals, totems, with even, like I was in California and we were near John Wayne Airport in Orange County, and big hub airport, it's like LAX, but it's down further south. And I remember getting ready the light turned green, and we were on the service roads, it was like 3 or 4 lanes of freeway traffic, and a voice said, stop, don't go yet. And I heard the voice, in fact, it said, Joe, wait, something like that, I think is what the words were. And I waited, and everyone else proceeded, and the guy had run the red light and caused an accident. And I was on the phone with one of my friends, and the crash was so loud that she said, what happened? To me on the phone. I said, the guy next to me just got T-boned.
Yeah.
And so you get signs different ways.
And things, how if you're at a red light and you don't move, the moment that light turns green, somebody behind you is beep, beep, beep.
Yes.
So I was at Old Country Road, and I don't know, we're passing one of the groceries, and I hesitated. I don't remember if I heard a voice. It wasn't that long ago. It was just pre-COVID. But I hesitated, and the man behind me was beeping, and I'm like, oh,
I see.
chill
Did he
out.
cut around you? Did he cut around you?
No, he didn't cut around me, which he could have, but he didn't. And when I got, he got my attention, and as he got my attention, somebody went through the light.
Okay.
And then I went, and it narrows down, and I'm now at the stop sign by Middle and Mill, and he pulls up on the shoulder next to me, and he rolls his window down, and I'm like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to, Brooklyn's ready to come out.
Did he apologize?
And he said, I'm so sorry. He said, and he was almost in tears. He said, because you hesitated, I'm getting home alive to see my children.
No, that's great. That was so, that for
And I
him,
said,
that was a teachable moment.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is great.
It made
So-
it worth all the people that beep at you, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, and I always think of It's a Wonderful Life, where Clarence the Angel
Yeah.
brings him to Potter's Field, or to Bailey Park, which is now a cemetery, in this where he wasn't born, and he sees his brother Harry died, and he says, "No, I saved Harry. Harry saved those troops," and Clarence says, "No, Harry, those troops died because Harry wasn't there to save them, because you weren't there to save Harry when the ice broke. He broke through the ice."
Right.
So that was exactly there, as you just sort of intervene.
Yeah,
You
and
kinda
Spirit
held
does
him back.
it. Where the Spirit held me back.
Yeah.
And there was something else, because it's always when Joe is here, we tell you, pay attention, because it could be sound, it could be a smell, it could be a feeling.
Okay. Yeah, and I want to throw something out
Yes.
to your point, because a lot of times people will say, how do you know you're just not imagining this, or you want to be something? So I think the difference is this, this is from a mediumistic standpoint, all right? When I'm doing readings or I'm going into a place, investigating a place, and I'm trying to pick up what's there, who's there. So I think the difference is if you look at a tree and you see a hole in the tree, you say it looks like a face. Or you see a cloud in the sky and you say that looks like Donald Duck. It could be. I mean, it might have the same shape, but that's not the same thing. When, like you, Phoenix, when you were driving the car and something grabbed the steering wheel.
Oh,
and
when
turned
Scott
right.
saved my life.
Right. So when you get something where it just comes out of nowhere and it kind of catches your attention, that's usually something to pay attention to.
Oh, yeah, with that one, there was no not paying attention. When Scott moved my car
He had
from
it
the
with
middle
you.
lane, and he took the wheel out of my hands, and a piggyback tractor trailer came down. I would have been squashed like a bug.
I was on the expressway over by coming towards Melville, getting ready to go up that hill. And I remember I was, trying to get better at my ability to pick up stuff, and I remember seeing this van, which is kind of weaving back and forth. It's an old kind of van, like a utility truck or something. And I said, I feel like that truck is going to weave into my lane, because he was right next to me. So I backed off, and sure enough, he weaved right into the space where I would have been. He wasn't even looking.
There were things that before we started,
energy.
it's almost like an obsession that you have to back up or move to the side. And, you're one of the darling people, you and Lorraine, who had said to me, it's time for you to acknowledge the gifts that you've been blessed with and this responsibility. So, I'm close to the people of the property that I live on. And Dee had passed away in December. My landlord's daughter-in-law, darling Jonathan's mother. And just a really special lady. And the other day, I think it was Thursday or Friday, I wake up in the morning, and I love where I live. It's a farm, and I just absolutely love it.
It must be nice.
And I haven't seen crows or ravens for quite a while. So I get up in the morning, and my alarm on the phone hadn't gone off yet. And I open the shade, and the sun is shining, and the cats are on the bed with me. And all of a sudden, I hear it. And this beautiful crow lands in the tree right outside the bedroom window. But the branch is very fragile, so the branch is going like this under his or her weight.
Sure.
And I'm like, good morning. And then another one comes along and is on, and another branch very close by. And the two of them are like bouncing, and they're just like, and the message was very clear. Because some people think of crows and ravens as omens of bad luck.
Which they're not.
And they are not. They are
They
definitely
represent-
messengers.
Yeah,
They're
they could be
magnificent.
change, something.
It's wonderful. Someone that you love, here go the goosebumps, from the other side, wants to get a message to you. So pay attention. Maybe they'll drop a flower that's a color of something that you could relate to. So
and
what they had said to me was, the young lady, who shall remain nameless at the moment, put a cushion around her today. And it was like, okay. So I go about my day, I go to work, and I'm thinking during the day, okay, surrounding her, sending her Reiki. And I get home, it's about 5:30, and I pull into the driveway, and I'm ready to get out of the car, and Scott, I don't believe this was Scott involved, but her side of the family, it was as if they all came in the car and said, you have to do this right now. There was no getting into my house. And when I did get in, I said to the cats, I'm not feeding you dinner yet. And the cats even understood what was happening. So the message that I gave her was, I knew it would make sense to her. It wasn't making sense to me.
Right.
And then to validate it, I said, oh, and I'm smelling pie. And this woman, Dee, loved to bake pies. The last time I was with her before she passed over, she was very ill from chemo and the cancer that she was dealing with. Very ill, very weak, and she still had pies in the oven.
That's great.
So it was a validation, and the young lady said, that's exactly what I needed to hear it.
Oh, that's great.
So when you get something like, I'm not an OCD person, thank you, but when you get that feeling that this is something I have to say to someone. This is something I have to do. I have to move this glass from here to here. Whatever. I was supposed to go to Stony Brook on Saturday when I finished with clients.
Mm-hmm.
I had a call, and it was a guest that was here a few weeks ago. I had to call and say, I can't meet you. Because it was as if Spirit was putting a wall in front of me. That's the only way I could describe it. You are not getting on the expressway. You are not going west. You cannot, do not. And over time, I've learned to listen.
I have to tell you
Please.
to that, because I got a great story. This is a recent story. This is new
Okay.
too, since we saw you last. So I went to Cape Cod to visit one of my friends. She's a client. She was a retired real estate broker. She used to be in Brooklyn.
Right.
Great lady. So she has a nice home up in Cape Cod.
So sweet there.
It's nice. The trip up there was great. I went up there in record time. I didn't even take the ferry. I went around the Whitestone Bridge, went up,
Yeah.
95 all the way. It was a great trip. But coming back, I said, I'm going to take the ferry back to Long Island because it's a beautiful ride, and I just didn't want to do the whole.
It
coming
saves
back to
driving
New
time.
York, it's tougher to get back in because you can hit traffic up there's 60
Yeah.
miles out. And so, and I had an unused ferry. I had a credit from the pandemic.
Oh, good.
So I called them up. They said, yeah, come on. So there's New London, and then there's Groton, if you know Connecticut.
Yep.
The New London ferry takes you to Orient Point, which is the furthest point on the north side of Long Island. So basically the ferry takes you from Connecticut over Long Island Sound to Long Island, and you can drive home back to, wherever you're going. So what I didn't know was there was another ferry in Groton
That takes you
on
to
the
Port
other
Jeff.
side of the river it takes
Oh,
you
that's the Bridgeport
the
one.
Bridgeport. No, this one actually takes you some island or some other place in Connecticut. It's
Oh.
like a small ferry. So I've taken the New London ferry, probably 50 times. Who knows? We used to go there. If you're on Long Island, you want to go up to
Right, it's easy.
Foxwoods Casino or something. You're going to take the ferry. So I decided I'm getting to the bridge, which is the Gold. I think they call it the Gold Star Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
It's 95. It's the one that goes over the river from the east side of where Groton is of Connecticut to the west side, which is where New London is.
Okay.
So if you were heading from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, back to New York, you'd go over this big bridge. It goes over the river. I forget the name of the river. I don't know if it's the Connecticut River or whatever river it is, but it takes you over the bridge. And then right after you go over the bridge, you get off the exit to go to the New London ferry, which is down.
Yes, I could see it. Yeah, make
You're
that
right.
left at that light.
Right at that line, okay? So long story short,
You didn't do that, did you?
you're not gonna leave. Okay, so this is where Spirit interviewed. My friend and I, we're staring out at this beautiful pond in Cape Cod, and it's like 12:15 in the afternoon. And I said, Susie, I gotta go. Because I gotta make the 4:00 ferry. And he said, okay. So I get in the car and I put the GPS that says it's gonna take 4 hours and 15 minutes to get there. So I'm missing the ferry. So I call the ferry up and I say I'll get there at 6. It's 6:00 ferry. I have a reservation. Well, I made such great time from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, all the way to Connecticut, almost to the ferry exit. I was like 2 miles away, and I was there like 3:15 or something.
Wow.
It was crazy, 2:15. It was ridiculous how fast I got there. So I said, well, I can actually make the 4:00 ferry, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. Spirit had a different plan for me, and they saved my life, I think. Although it didn't happen when I got there, but it saved me a lot more grief. So what
Yeah.
happened was, I put in ferry, assuming it was going to give me the New London ferry, which is on the other side of the bridge.
Careful to assume.
Right. Said, ferry, get off at this exit. I get off at the exit, and I go, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong side of the river. That's when I found out that it wasn't the right ferry. So I put
Okay.
the other ferry in, the New London ferry, to get back on the bridge, and the police are closing the street off, the on-ramp, back to where I just got off of.
Oh,
What happened was, a guy had a blowout in his car, lost control of the car. It careened into a fuel truck, causing the truck to flip over, explode, and take a piece of the bridge out. And there was a huge fire on that bridge, which was like only a few hundred yards ahead of me.
They saved your butt.
Now, it didn't just happen like that. It had actually happened hours before, but for some reason, I don't know, maybe it was still open or something, the traffic hadn't yet backed up. When I got off the bridge, by the time I got back to the bridge, traffic was backed up going east for miles and miles. It was crazy. They were backing people off the bridge,
Yeah.
which was a whole. So I decided to take these local roads to go up to Connecticut to find the first place I could cross over the river and come back down the other side. 5 hours it took me to go that 1 mile. I finally got there, but spirit definitely, because I could have been stuck on that bridge for hours, and who knows, maybe. The flames, the bridge could, you saw the one that happened in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
The bridge collapsed.
I-95.
So I think that there is definitely that spiritual internet, that information, that Google information that is out there. And if you can just pay attention to it, sometimes when you get the urge to do one thing versus another, you go with the gut, because usually they're trying to tell you something.
So I know we only have like a little over 10 minutes. This is probably a terrible time to bring this up with not more time. What is your impression of ley lines energy, the ley lines and grids, energy grids?
What do you mean, on the Earth? I don't know. I mean, I could give an opinion on it, but I'm not scientifically, I don't study that.
Okay.
But the Earth, of course, everything on the Earth has to do with energy. The whole universe is all energy. And we are influenced by the energy, and we also do think things occur atomically because of the energy, the way it's laying over. We were talking about remote viewing earlier.
Yes.
Off the air, we were talking about, things, out-of-body experiences, and it's all about energy. The ability for a medium or a psychic or just a paranormal investigator to pick up something from the other side or witness something has to do with them connecting to the energy.
Do you know what we didn't do?
What?
We didn't tell people how to find you.
Oh, go to joegmediumpi.com. So think of Joe G, Joseph Giaquino, Paranormal Investigator, PI. Medium PI. It's a medium. So Joe, it's like, think of Magnum PI.
Yes.
Right? Good old Tom Selleck, right?
Yeah, good old Tom Selleck.
joegmediumpi.com. And then you can contact me on the website. There's a contact request.
And if you forget, let me know and I'll get you in touch with him. So will you be having events over the summer?
Yeah, this summer, sometimes people, they go to the beach, they go on vacation and stuff. But I do have events, and as we get, into August and September, we start ramping up the whole fall season, because Halloween is a big thing. We do, Carrie Ann and I do the book tours, all the libraries, the historic societies. I do several Halloween investigations, so it will be. But I also do my private readings at businesses and private homes, as well as phone readings.
And if anyone watching this themselves or knows of someone that has some activity in your home,
I can investigate.
Definitely contact Joe, and he could come and do EVP recordings, take photographs, and also, like with your photographs, pay attention to your photographs.
Yeah, if you look at your photo, even wedding photos.
It's not what you see always with the naked eye.
Right.
That photograph always has a little goodie in there for you.
Yeah, if you look at some of even the old print, the old Kodak photos, like the black and white photos from like the 50s or 40s, you see these white little discs of light hovering over people's heads. Those are orbs. They're sort of spiritual markers. This is like, think of it like an apparition or a ghost, but it's just a little ball of light. And they're not dust, you can see through them. So if you see, for example, somebody standing in front of a house and you have an orb there, and you could see the window frame through the orb, all right, then it's actually light. It's light energy. It's not dust, because dusk is opaque.
Yeah.
A snowflake would be, a raindrop would be.
There are some photographs that you took that I have on the Phoenix Rising page. On Facebook, there's a Phoenix Rising page, and I do post the show. So if you scroll down to a previous show that Joe and I did, you'll see I took pictures as it was being aired. I took stills of it, of the soldier hanging from the tree.
Oh, yes.
Was it a soldier or another person, civilian?
A civilian.
It was a civilian, but there was a soldier.
Right.
in a photograph, there was
Right.
a figure hanging from a tree.
Yeah, that was the old burying ground, Sag Harbor.
Yeah, yeah. So, and
And that-
these are things that you don't see with your naked eye.
No, and with that investigation, what you were talking about earlier is you get a sense of it with you were talking about the crows,
Yeah.
the ravens. So Carrie Ann and I were out there. I'd gotten there earlier and took some panoramic shots of the place. I felt like, where does the spirits want me to take a picture? That's where the man hanging from the tree.
And that
ended up
picture's on Phoenix Rising.
It is great. I got to check it out
Yeah.
too. And but when Carrie Ann got there, we picked up on our ghost box recording that someone said that there were at least two people hung in the cemetery. And I also told Carrie Ann before we did the ghost box, I felt like two people were hung. When we got this tree, we thought it was a hanging tree because it had a horizontal branch that looked like you could
Yeah.
throw a rope over it. It was a dead tree, and a crow landed right on the tree,
Get your attention. It's here.
It's here, yeah. So it wasn't actually that tree, but the fact was that the spirits are tuned into the fact that they were giving us a picture. And yes, there is someone hung there, and here's the crow to just stand on the tree that you're talking about, that it's a hanging tree.
Right.
And again, the tree itself was another tree just a little ways over, but
Oh, it's you can't miss it in the photograph.
it's
You
got like
cannot
8 or
miss it.
10 points that identified as a person. I mean, you could see the guy's pants.
Mm-hmm.
You could see a black noose around the neck. You
Yeah.
could see a black noose going up into the tree limbs. He's wearing a green hat. You could see a cloth mask or duct tape around his, I guess, cloth tied around his face. And his hands are behind his back.
People do such horrible things to each other.
Yeah, it was very sad. It was a very melancholy place. There was also a battle there, which I told Carrie Ann. I sensed there was a battle in this spot. We were standing by where it would be like a bunker, like it was right adjacent to the road. And then I said I saw people like skeletons and dead bodies and stuff. And then Carrie Ann told me that they actually had a flood that washed out part of the cemetery, and the caskets were exposed, and so the bodies were showing up. But that there was also a battle. I think it was called the Battle of Meigs Field, and it was actually a battle occurred in
Right
that
there,
cemetery
yeah.
because we got a lot of battle energy.
Oh, out here, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look at the history here.
Oh,
From all the
Long Island is
small
so
towns.
underrated. I always say this: it's got so much history, especially the Revolutionary War, probably even the Civil War. But most
Yeah.
of the Revolutionary War, they did that
The
show,
bunker
Terror.
out in off Napeague, off the beach.
Right.
There's just
There's,
so much
there's
there.
a lot. Yeah, it's you should really check out the history. The places here, right? They're gorgeous. The
You should do a
homes.
tour.
Yeah, I do
I just
isolated
thought of,
like
I just thought of that.
no. Well, we do.
Yes, I know you did.
Yes, they're trying to help me. I know they're trying to.
Doing a tour, that would be such great fun.
We did a tour of Cold Spring Harbor, Carrie and I,
Mm.
several years ago. We had 75 people just show up.
I think that would be so
That
awesome.
was so much fun. We did
And
it
book
like,
a place to have lunch and things like
I
that.
think so. Yeah, it's a good idea. Well, yeah, it's fun. It's fun stuff. I just want to see if I have anything quick.
Yeah.
Um,
So while Joe is looking, I'll remind you, pay attention to your gut instinct, to what you think is your imagination, and keep a little notebook by the side of your bed. And when you wake up, before you do anything, just because you lose the thoughts, you lose the memories, the quote-unquote dreams, just even write down one word to help you remember, okay, this is what I saw. This is what I heard.
I want to do a workshop, and I thought of doing one where you teach people how to journal, because here's something you can do for our viewers. Just write down, as you said, just pay attention to stuff and write down something. Every time you get something, write it down, carry a pad with you or a little memo recorder, digital
Yeah.
recorder, and say, I felt something, I thought of a friend of mine, and then 5 seconds later the phone rang, it was my friend. Things like that, little coincidence.
Or I smelled something. I smelled a cigar, and then a man that looked just like my father showed up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. We smelled We were at Raynham Hall several years ago. 3 of us smelled fresh baked apple pie baking in the
I
oven
love it.
in the foyer, which wasn't even near the kitchen, and the kitchen wasn't even in use. They hadn't cooked in that hearth for a long time.
It was, they wanted you to have that
Yeah,
sweet
that
memory.
was, yeah, because they like us, the Townsend.
Yeah.
We've done a lot over there, and so it's, yeah, it's fun. It's definitely good
So
stuff.
again, thank you for coming out today,
thank
my
you.
dear
Yeah,
friend.
it's a beautiful day today, too.
It's gorgeous. So
Summer's here.
when Joe comes back, we're going to talk about
We'll do a specific.
Dr. Osis
Yes.
and Dr.
And I'll
Tanas.
bring some examples of some of my spirit recordings,
That would be great.
you know.
And some of those photographs, too.
Yeah.
Have you
I've got
done?
some- I've got
Yeah,
some more,
and if
yeah.
there's any more.
I have
so,
some new ones, yeah.
So, and when you take photographs, pay attention to them. You know, take a look, you know, and I'll bring one of my old photographs, the one with the fire, you know, in my fire
Oh,
pit.
yeah.
And there's my
yeah.
grandfather's faces right there.
I've
So
got some great stuff. Yeah, we'll have a fun time. I look forward to that.
you got it.
All right.
So I want to wish everyone a beautiful, blessed day. So close your eyes, sit back, have your feet on the floor, uncross your ankles. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose. Exhale from your mouth. Again, inhale through your nose. Exhale from your mouth. And if you feel stressed, inhale, count to 6, hold it for the count to 6, and exhale for the count to 6, even up to the count of 10. And then rest. Inhale, peace, love. Exhale everything and anything that does not serve your highest good. Inhale, peace and love, and exhale anything and everything that does not serve your highest good. I wish to thank you all for watching and supporting the show. Contact Joe. He's a wealth of information and a very gifted soul. And thank you, my dear friend Joe. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Felix.
And thank
Nice
you
to
for
see you
being in
again.
my life. We always have
Always
such a
fun.
good time.
We've been around forever.
We have been around forever, and I can't imagine what we're going to do in our next lifetime. This is going to be something. And thank you, everyone
We'll get to see Dr. Osis
Yeah.
in the interim, I'm
and
sure.
thank you, everyone at LTV. You're always so sweet and wonderful to me. Thank you all so much. So remember, take that deep breath in and exhale. Love, light, and blessings to you all. Namaste. Thank you, my dear Joe.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.